Listen closely, because what you're about to discover could completely transform the way you see yourself, your potential, and your entire life. Every single day, you wake up with a choice that most people never even realize they have, the choice to master yourself, to become the architect of your own destiny, to tap into a power so profound that it lies dormant within you right now, waiting to be awakened. And the remarkable truth is this: you already possess everything you need to create the life you've always dreamed of. The only question is, are you ready to claim it? Christian D. Larson's transformative masterpiece, The Mastery of Self, isn't just another self-help book gathering dust on a shelf. It's a blueprint for human potential, a roadmap to personal power, and a declaration of the magnificent truth that you are far more capable, far more powerful, and far more deserving of greatness than you've ever been led to believe. This isn't about positive thinking alone, though that's part of it. This is about fundamentally understanding who you are at your core, recognizing the forces that shape your reality, and learning to harness those forces with precision, purpose, and unwavering faith in yourself. So many of us move through life feeling like passengers rather than drivers, reacting to circumstances instead of creating them, accepting limitations that were never real to begin with. We settle for less, not because we want to, but because we've forgotten, or perhaps never learned, that we have the power to shape our own existence. Larson's work shatters these illusions and reveals what the great minds throughout history have always known: that mastery of the external world begins with mastery of the internal world, that control over your circumstances starts with control over your thoughts, emotions, and beliefs. The foundation of Larson's philosophy rests on a simple yet revolutionary premise: you are not merely a physical being stumbling through a random universe. You are a conscious, creative force, connected to an infinite source of power, intelligence, and possibility. Your thoughts are not just fleeting mental events with no consequence. They are creative forces that shape your character, influence your circumstances, and ultimately determine the trajectory of your entire life. This means that every thought you think, every emotion you feel, every belief you hold, is either building you up or tearing you down, moving you toward your goals or away from them, creating the person you wish to become or reinforcing the person you wish to leave behind. Think about that for a moment. Really let it sink in. You are constantly creating yourself through the quality of your mental and emotional life. The person you are today is the sum total of all the thoughts you've entertained, all the beliefs you've accepted, all the emotions you've cultivated over the years. And here's the exciting part: if you don't like who you've become, if you're not satisfied with where you are, you have the power to change it, starting right now, in this very moment. This is the mastery of self, the recognition that you are both the sculptor and the sculpture, both the painter and the painting, both the creator and the creation. Larson begins by addressing the fundamental truth that most people live their lives in a state of inner division, constantly at war with themselves. Part of you wants one thing while another part wants something completely different. You desire success but harbor beliefs about your unworthiness. You long for happiness but habitually focus on what's wrong. You dream of transformation but cling to familiar patterns that keep you stuck. This internal conflict drains your energy, weakens your will, and makes genuine progress nearly impossible. The first step toward self-mastery, then, is integration, bringing all parts of yourself into harmony, aligning your conscious desires with your subconscious beliefs, and unifying your mental, emotional, and spiritual energies in pursuit of a clearly defined purpose. Imagine your mind as a vast kingdom, and you are meant to be its sovereign ruler. But in most people's kingdoms, there's chaos and disorder. Different factions fight for control, old programming runs on autopilot, and there's no clear authority directing the whole enterprise. Self-mastery means establishing yourself as the rightful ruler of your inner kingdom, bringing order where there was chaos, direction where there was aimlessness, and power where there was weakness. It means taking full responsibility for your mental and emotional states, refusing to be a victim of your moods, impulses, or circumstances. One of the most powerful insights Larson offers is about the nature of thought itself. Your thoughts are not neutral observers of reality, they are active participants in creating it. When you think a thought repeatedly, you strengthen certain neural pathways in your brain, you attract corresponding experiences into your life, and you literally become more of the person who thinks that kind of thought. This is why people who constantly think about problems tend to find themselves surrounded by problems, while people who focus on solutions tend to find solutions appearing everywhere they look. It's not magic, though it can seem that way. It's the natural law of mental causation, the principle that consciousness is primary and matter is secondary. Now, Larson isn't suggesting that you can simply wish away all challenges or that positive thinking alone will solve every problem. What he's saying is far more practical and profound. He's teaching you to become aware of the quality of your habitual thinking, to consciously choose thoughts that empower you rather than diminish you, and to persistently direct your mental energy toward what you wish to create rather than what you wish to avoid. This is an art and a discipline, and like any skill, it improves with practice. The master of self is the one who has trained their mind to think constructively, even when circumstances would invite despair, to see opportunity where others see only obstacles, and to maintain an unwavering focus on their highest vision even when current reality suggests impossibility. Let's talk about the power of belief, because this is absolutely central to Larson's teachings. Your beliefs are the lens through which you perceive reality, and they quite literally determine what's possible for you. If you believe you're incapable of something, you'll unconsciously sabotage every attempt to achieve it. If you believe you're unworthy of love, success, or happiness, you'll create circumstances that confirm that belief. But here's the liberating truth. Beliefs are not facts. They're simply thoughts you've repeated so often that they've become automatic, accepted as truth without question. And just as beliefs can be formed, they can be reformed. Just as limiting beliefs can be installed, empowering beliefs can be installed to replace them. The process of transforming your beliefs requires you to become a conscious observer of your own mental patterns. You must catch yourself in the act of believing something that doesn't serve you, question where that belief came from, examine whether it's actually true, and then deliberately choose a new belief that aligns with your highest aspirations. This isn't self-deception or denial of reality. It's the recognition that your current beliefs created your current reality, and if you want a different reality, you must first adopt different beliefs. You're not ignoring facts, you're changing the mental framework that determines which facts you notice and what meaning you assign to them. Larson emphasizes that self-mastery also requires emotional mastery, the ability to feel your emotions fully without being controlled by them. So many people are enslaved by their emotional reactions, flying off the handle at the slightest provocation, sinking into depression when things don't go their way, allowing fear to paralyze them or anger to cloud their judgment. The master of self experiences the full range of human emotions but is not swept away by them. They feel fear but act courageously anyway. They experience disappointment but maintain their forward momentum. They feel anger but channel it constructively rather than destructively. This doesn't mean suppressing emotions or pretending you don't feel what you feel. It means developing the capacity to observe your emotions with some degree of detachment, to recognize them as temporary states rather than permanent truths, and to choose your response rather than reacting automatically. One of the most practical techniques Larson offers is the cultivation of what he calls the larger view. When you're caught up in a problem, when you're overwhelmed by circumstances, when you feel small and powerless, it's because your perspective has narrowed. You've zoomed in so close to the difficulty that you can't see the broader context, the bigger picture, the larger patterns at work. The master of self trains themselves to step back mentally, to view their current situation from a higher vantage point, to see it as one small chapter in a much longer story. From this elevated perspective, what seemed overwhelming becomes manageable, what seemed catastrophic becomes merely challenging, and what seemed impossible begins to reveal pathways forward. This larger view also involves recognizing your connection to something greater than your individual self. Larson speaks about the infinite intelligence, the universal mind, the divine presence, that flows through all of life, including you. You are not isolated and alone, struggling against an indifferent universe. You are part of a vast, interconnected web of consciousness and energy. When you align yourself with this greater intelligence, when you open yourself to guidance from this higher source, when you trust in the fundamental benevolence of the universe, you tap into resources far beyond your limited personal capacities. This isn't about religious dogma or blind faith. It's about recognizing that there's an organizing intelligence in nature, that there are patterns and principles operating at scales both infinitely large and infinitely small, and that you can consciously cooperate with these forces rather than struggling against them. The principle of concentrated attention is another cornerstone of Larson's system. In a world of constant distractions, where your attention is pulled in 1,000 directions simultaneously, the ability to focus your mental energy with laser-like intensity is a superpower. Most people's minds are scattered, flitting from one thing to another, never giving anything their full attention, never developing real depth in any area. The master of self can gather their mental forces and direct them with precision toward a single objective. This concentrated attention doesn't just make you more productive, it actually multiplies your creative power exponentially. When all of your mental and emotional energy is unified and directed toward a single purpose, you become an irresistible force, capable of overcoming obstacles that would stop someone whose energy is dispersed and divided. Think about the sun's rays on an ordinary day. They're warm, certainly, but they don't start fires. But take those same rays and focus them through a magnifying glass, concentrating them on a single point, and suddenly they have the power to ignite. Your mental energy works the same way. Scattered and unfocused, it accomplishes little. But concentrated and directed, it becomes powerful enough to transform your entire life. This is why Larson urges you to become ruthlessly selective about where you place your attention. Stop wasting mental energy on gossip, drama, complaints, and negativity. Stop allowing your attention to be hijacked by every notification, every distraction, every person who demands a piece of your consciousness. Become a guardian of your attention, because your attention determines your experience, and your experience determines your life. Now let's explore the relationship between self-mastery and purpose, because these two elements are intimately connected. You cannot truly master yourself without a compelling purpose pulling you forward, and you cannot fulfill your purpose without achieving a significant degree of self-mastery. Purpose gives direction to your efforts, meaning to your struggles, and context to your daily actions. Without purpose, self-improvement becomes aimless, just rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. But with a clear, inspiring purpose, every act of self-discipline, every moment of choosing your higher self over your lower impulses, every investment in your growth becomes part of a meaningful journey towards something that matters deeply to you. Larson encourages you to take time to discover or clarify your purpose, to ask yourself what you're really here to do, what unique contribution you're meant to make, what legacy you want to leave behind. This isn't about finding some grand cosmic mission handed down from on high, though it might feel that way when it clicks. It's about being honest with yourself about what truly excites you, what problems you feel called to solve, what kind of person you want to become, and what kind of difference you want to make. Your purpose doesn't have to save the world, though it might. It just has to be authentic to you, compelling enough to get you out of bed in the morning, and worthy enough to call forth your best efforts. Once you've clarified your purpose, everything changes. Suddenly, you have a criterion for making decisions. Does this action move me toward my purpose or away from it? Does this habit support my purpose or undermine it? Does this relationship elevate me toward my purpose or drag me down? With purpose as your North Star, you gain clarity about where to invest your time, energy, and attention. You become less susceptible to distraction, less influenced by other people's agendas, and less likely to waste years of your life on things that ultimately don't matter to you. Larson also addresses the critical importance of persistence, the ability to keep going when progress seems slow, when obstacles appear insurmountable, when every voice around you says to quit. Self-mastery isn't achieved in a moment of inspiration or through a single heroic effort. It's forged through thousands of small choices, daily disciplines, repeated practices, and unwavering commitment over time. The master of self understands that transformation is a process, not an event, that character is built gradually through consistent right action, and that every setback is simply feedback, every failure is simply a learning opportunity, and every delay is simply the universe preparing you for what's coming. This requires developing what Larson calls spiritual endurance, the inner strength to maintain your vision and your efforts even when external conditions don't immediately reflect your internal work. So many people start strong but fade when they don't see instant results. They change their diet for a week and expect to be healthy. They think positive thoughts for a day and wonder why their circumstances haven't transformed. They practice self-discipline for a month and feel discouraged that they haven't achieved mastery. But the true master knows that the lag time between cause and effect, between planting and harvest, between effort and reward, is not a bug in the system, it's a feature. This delay tests your commitment, strengthens your character, and ensures that when success does come, you'll be ready to handle it. Let's talk about the power of habit, because this is where the rubber meets the road in self-mastery. Your habits are the invisible architecture of your life. They're the automated programs running in the background, determining how you spend your time, where you direct your energy, and ultimately who you become. Most people are unconscious of their habits, running on autopilot, repeating the same patterns day after day while wondering why their lives don't change. The master of self brings awareness to their habits, eliminates those that don't serve them, and deliberately cultivates those that align with their purpose and values. Creating new habits or breaking old ones isn't primarily about willpower, though that plays a role. It's about understanding the structure of habits, how they're triggered, what reward they provide, and how they can be redesigned. Larson teaches that you must replace a bad habit with a good one rather than simply trying to eliminate the bad habit through force of will alone. Nature abhors a vacuum, and if you don't fill the space left by an old habit with something better, the old habit will simply return. This is why people who quit smoking or drinking or overeating without replacing those behaviors with healthier alternatives so often relapse. They haven't actually transformed the underlying pattern, they've just temporarily suppressed it through willpower, which is a finite resource. The master of self also understands the principle of momentum. It's hard to get a train moving from a standstill, but once it's rolling, it takes equally great effort to stop it. The same is true of your personal transformation. The beginning is always the hardest part. Breaking through inertia, overcoming initial resistance, establishing new patterns, all of this requires significant effort. But if you persist through this difficult initial phase, if you can maintain your new practices long enough for them to gain momentum, then continuing becomes easier than stopping. The new patterns become automatic, the new identity becomes natural, and what once required tremendous discipline now happens almost effortlessly. Larson emphasizes the importance of your environment in supporting or sabotaging your self-mastery efforts. You are constantly being influenced by the people you spend time with, the media you consume, the spaces you inhabit, and the culture you're immersed in. If you surround yourself with negative people, you'll struggle to maintain positivity. If you fill your mind with fear-based news and entertainment, you'll struggle to maintain peace. If you live in chaos and clutter, you'll struggle to maintain mental clarity. The master of self takes responsibility for curating their environment, surrounding themselves with people who inspire them, consuming content that elevates them, and creating physical spaces that support their highest functioning. This doesn't mean isolating yourself or becoming intolerant of people who are different from you. It means being intentional and selective about your primary influences, recognizing that you have limited time and energy, and choosing to invest those resources in relationships and experiences that help you grow rather than those that keep you stagnant or pull you backward. Some relationships may need to be released, not with judgment or animosity, but with gratitude for what they were and recognition that they no longer serve your evolution. Others may need stronger boundaries so they don't drain your energy or distract you from your purpose. And new relationships that align with who you're becoming need to be actively sought and cultivated. Let's explore the concept of inner authority, which Larson sees as essential to self-mastery. Inner authority means trusting your own judgment, honoring your own values, and following your own path even when it diverges from what others expect or approve of. So many people live their entire lives seeking external validation, needing permission from others to pursue their dreams, requiring approval before they can feel good about themselves, constantly measuring themselves against someone else's standards. This is a form of self-abandonment, a betrayal of your own inner knowing, and it makes true self-mastery impossible. The master of self develops a strong internal compass, a clear sense of their own values, principles, and direction. They listen to advice, consider other perspectives, and remain open to learning, but ultimately they trust themselves to make their own decisions and live with the consequences. This inner authority doesn't come from arrogance or closed-mindedness. It comes from deep self-knowledge, from having done the inner work to understand who you really are, what you truly value, and where you're genuinely called to go. When you have this inner authority, you become less reactive to criticism, less dependent on praise, and less swayed by the changing winds of public opinion. You develop a stability and centeredness that allows you to navigate life's ups and downs without losing yourself. Larson also speaks to the power of visualization and mental rehearsal in achieving self-mastery. Your subconscious mind doesn't clearly distinguish between a vividly imagined experience and a real one. This is why athletes use visualization to improve performance, why actors rehearse scenes in their imagination, and why anxiety can be triggered by imagined futures that never materialize. If your subconscious believes something is real, it begins preparing you for that reality, shifting your perceptions, shaping your behaviors, and even influencing your physiology. The master of self harnesses this principle by regularly spending time in vivid, detailed visualization of their desired outcomes. Not just seeing the end result, but feeling what it would feel like to live in that reality, experiencing the emotions, sensing the environment, embodying the version of yourself who has already achieved what you're working toward. This isn't idle daydreaming or wishful thinking. This is deliberate, focused mental training that programs your subconscious mind for success, primes your attention to notice opportunities, and begins to close the gap between who you are and who you need to become. Along with visualization, Larson teaches the importance of affirmation, the practice of declaring truth about yourself even before external circumstances reflect that truth. Affirmations aren't about lying to yourself or denying reality. They're about speaking to your potential rather than your current limitations, about calling forth the highest version of yourself, about aligning your conscious statements with your deepest aspirations. When you affirm, "I am capable," You're not claiming to be perfect or all-powerful. You're declaring your fundamental capacity to learn, grow, and overcome challenges. When you affirm, "I am worthy," you're not claiming to have earned some cosmic stamp of approval. You're recognizing your inherent value as a human being regardless of your accomplishments or failures. The key to effective affirmation is feeling, not just repetition. You can say positive words all day long, but if they're just empty sounds without emotional resonance, they won't penetrate deeply enough to transform your subconscious beliefs. You must speak your affirmations with conviction, with feeling, with the full weight of your intention behind them. And you must be patient, because deep-seated beliefs don't change overnight. It takes time for new affirmations to override old programming, but with consistency and emotional intensity, they will. Now we come to one of the most challenging aspects of self-mastery: dealing with failure, setback, and disappointment. Larson teaches that how you respond to adversity reveals and shapes your character far more than how you respond to success. Anyone can maintain a positive attitude when everything's going well, but the master of self can maintain their center even when the bottom drops out, even when their plans fall apart, even when they experience devastating loss or defeat. This doesn't mean pretending everything is fine when it's not. It means refusing to let circumstances define your worth or determine your future. Every failure contains within it the seeds of an equivalent or greater success, but only if you're willing to learn from it rather than being destroyed by it. The master of self approaches failure with curiosity rather than self-judgment, asking, "What can I learn from this? How can I grow from this experience? What needs to change in my approach?" Rather than, "Why does this always happen to me? Why am I such a failure? Why even bother trying?" This shift in internal dialogue is absolutely crucial, because your failures only become permanent when you quit, when you internalize the failure as an identity rather than seeing it as an event, when you allow temporary defeat to become a terminal diagnosis. Larson reminds you that every person who has achieved anything worthwhile has experienced failure, often many times, often spectacularly. The difference between those who ultimately succeed and those who give up isn't that successful people encounter fewer obstacles, it's that they interpret obstacles differently. Where one person sees a dead end, another sees a detour. Where one person sees evidence of their inadequacy, another sees an opportunity to develop new skills. Where one person sees a reason to quit, another sees a reason to adjust their approach. Your interpretation of events matters far more than the events themselves, and you have complete control over how you choose to interpret what happens to you. Let's address the role of sacrifice in self-mastery, because this is often misunderstood. Sacrifice doesn't mean suffering for the sake of suffering or denying yourself pleasure out of some grim sense of duty. True sacrifice means giving up what you want now for what you want most, trading immediate gratification for long-term fulfillment, releasing what's comfortable but limiting in favor of what's challenging but expansive. The master of self willingly makes these trades because they understand that you can't become a new person while clinging to old patterns, you can't achieve new results while repeating old behaviors, and you can't create an extraordinary life while settling for ordinary choices. This might mean sacrificing late nights of mindless entertainment for early mornings of focused work. It might mean sacrificing toxic but familiar relationships for the temporary discomfort of being alone. It might mean sacrificing the security of a steady paycheck for the uncertainty of pursuing your dreams. These aren't easy choices, and Larson doesn't pretend they are. But he reminds you that the pain of discipline weighs ounces while the pain of regret weighs tons. The temporary discomfort of stretching yourself pales in comparison to the permanent disappointment of never discovering what you were capable of. The master of self also cultivates gratitude as a fundamental practice, not as a technique to manipulate the universe into giving them more, but as a way of recognizing and appreciating what's already present. Gratitude shifts your focus from what's missing to what's available, from problems to blessings, from scarcity to abundance. This shift in focus doesn't change external circumstances, but it profoundly changes your experience of those circumstances and your energy for dealing with them. When you approach life from a place of gratitude, you access more creativity, more resilience, more joy, and more power than when you approach it from a place of complaint, resentment, or entitlement. Larson teaches that gratitude should extend beyond material blessings to include gratitude for challenges, for lessons, for growth opportunities, even for failures that taught you what doesn't work. This doesn't mean being grateful that bad things happened. It means finding something to be grateful for even in difficult situations. It means looking for the gift inside every struggle, the wisdom inside every wound, the strength that emerges from every test. This practice of finding gratitude in all circumstances is perhaps one of the most transformative habits you can develop, because it trains your mind to look for value, for meaning, for opportunity everywhere, and what you look for, you find. As we move deeper into Larson's teachings, we encounter the principle of giving, which he sees as inseparable from mastery. The master of self understands that life is not a zero-sum game where one person's gain necessitates another's loss. Rather, life operates on principles of circulation and flow. What you give out returns to you, often multiplied, but not necessarily from the same source or in the same form. This isn't about manipulative giving where you're constantly calculating what you'll get back. It's about generous giving that flows from a recognition of abundance, from a desire to contribute, from an understanding that your good is not diminished by someone else's good. You can give your time, your energy, your talents, your attention, your encouragement, your wisdom, your resources, and your presence. Every act of genuine giving expands you, strengthens you, and connects you more deeply to life itself. Conversely, hoarding, grasping, and withholding contract you, isolate you, and reinforce a mentality of scarcity that actually limits what can flow to you. The master of self is constantly looking for opportunities to add value, to make a difference, to lift others up, not from obligation or guilt, but from the joy and fulfillment that comes from contributing to something beyond yourself. This principle of giving extends to forgiveness, which Larson sees as essential to self-mastery. Holding grudges, nursing resentments, and clinging to anger toward those who've wronged you doesn't punish them, it poisons you. Every moment you spend replaying old hurts, every ounce of energy you invest in bitterness, every hour you waste fantasizing about revenge is time and energy stolen from your own growth, happiness, and progress. Forgiveness isn't about condoning harmful behavior or pretending the wrong didn't happen. It's about releasing your attachment to the pain so it no longer controls you, no longer defines you, no longer drains your life force. The master of self forgives not because others deserve it, but because they themselves deserve to be free from the burden of carrying old wounds. They recognize that forgiveness is a gift they give themselves, a declaration of their own power and agency. They refuse to allow anyone else's actions to permanently diminish their peace, joy, or forward momentum. This doesn't always happen quickly or easily, especially with deep betrayals or severe traumas. It's often a process that unfolds over time, requiring patience, compassion, and sometimes professional support. But the commitment to move toward forgiveness, to work through the pain rather than being stuck in it forever, is itself an act of self-mastery. Larson speaks extensively about the mastery of speech, recognizing that your words shape reality in powerful ways. Your words influence others, certainly, but more importantly, they influence you. Every time you speak, you're reinforcing certain beliefs, emotions, and patterns. If your speech is filled with complaints, criticisms, and negativity, you're literally training yourself to see life through that lens. If your speech is filled with possibility, appreciation, and encouragement, you're training yourself to perceive those qualities more readily. The master of self becomes thoughtful and intentional about their words, speaking only what's true, useful, and kind, refusing to engage in gossip, complaint, or unnecessary negativity. This doesn't mean being fake or suppressing honest expression. It means taking responsibility for the impact of your words and choosing them wisely. It means being honest but not brutal, direct but not cruel, authentic but not indulgent of every passing thought or emotion. Your words are creative forces, and the master of self wields them with the same care and precision that an artist wields a brush or a surgeon wields a scalpel. They understand that careless words can wound, discourage, and destroy, while thoughtful words can heal, inspire, and build up. The principle of present moment awareness runs throughout Larson's work like a golden thread. So much of human suffering comes from mental time travel, from dwelling in a past that can't be changed or worrying about a future that hasn't happened yet. Meanwhile, the only moment you actually have any power in is this one, right now. The master of self trains themselves to return their attention repeatedly to the present moment, to be fully here rather than lost in mental abstraction, to engage completely with whatever they're doing rather than being physically present but mentally elsewhere. This present moment awareness doesn't mean ignoring past lessons or future planning, both of which are valuable. It means not being trapped in the past through regret, guilt, or nostalgia, and not being imprisoned by the future through anxiety, worry, or fantasy. It means learning from the past without living in it, planning for the future without being consumed by it, and investing the bulk of your awareness and energy in the only moment where life actually happens, now. This practice alone, sustained over time, can transform your entire experience of existence, because presence is where peace lives, where joy resides, and where your true power dwells. Larson also addresses the importance of rest and renewal in the journey of self-mastery. In a culture that glorifies constant hustle and treats rest as weakness, this teaching is particularly important. The master of self understands that growth happens not just during effort but during recovery, not just in action but in stillness, not just in striving but in allowing. Your nervous system needs downtime to integrate what you've learned. Your body needs rest to repair and strengthen. Your mind needs quiet to process, create, and receive insight. Pushing relentlessly without adequate rest doesn't make you more productive. It makes you less effective, more prone to illness, and more likely to burn out before reaching your goals. True rest isn't just physical sleep, though that's essential. It's also mental rest, releasing the need to constantly figure everything out, to control every outcome, to solve every problem immediately. It's emotional rest, giving yourself permission to feel without judgment, to be human, to have limits. It's spiritual rest, trusting that the universe is working on your behalf even when you're not actively working, that there's an intelligence organizing life at scales you can't perceive, and that you don't have to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. The master of self moves between effort and ease with grace, knowing when to push and when to pause, when to climb and when to rest, when to strive and when to surrender. As you continue on the path of self-mastery, Larson reminds you that progress isn't linear. You'll have breakthroughs and setbacks, periods of rapid growth and plateaus where nothing seems to be happening. This is natural and normal. Growth in nature isn't constant and steady. It comes in spurts and cycles, seasons of expansion followed by seasons of consolidation. Your personal growth follows similar patterns. The key is maintaining your practices even during the plateaus, trusting that work you're doing is having an effect even when you can't see immediate results, staying committed to your vision even when progress seems slow. One of the most profound teachings in Larson's work concerns the relationship between self-mastery and service. He reveals that the ultimate purpose of mastering yourself isn't to become superior to others, to prove your worth, or to achieve personal glory. It's to become a more effective vessel for contributing something meaningful to the world, to develop the strength and stability to lift others, to refine yourself so you can offer your highest gifts to life. Self-mastery without service becomes sterile and self-absorbed. Service without self-mastery becomes ineffective and unsustainable. But self-mastery in the service of something greater than yourself becomes noble, fulfilling, and truly transformative. This perspective shifts everything. Suddenly, the work of self-improvement isn't about you alone. It's about what you can do for others once you've gotten yourself together. It's about the people you can help once you've helped yourself. It's about the difference you can make once you've transformed the chaos within into order, once you've alchemized your pain into wisdom, once you've evolved your limitations into strengths. Every person who achieves genuine self-mastery becomes a beacon of possibility for others, demonstrating that transformation is real, that growth is possible, that people can change. Larson teaches that self-mastery is also intimately connected to truth-telling, both to yourself and others. One of the ways people remain stuck is through self-deception, through convincing themselves that things are fine when they're not, that they're making progress when they're stagnant, that they'll start tomorrow what they should start today. The master of self develops the courage to look at themselves honestly, to acknowledge where they're falling short, to admit when they're off track, to recognize their patterns of self-sabotage. This honesty isn't about harsh self-judgment. It's about clear-eyed assessment that makes course correction possible. Similarly, the master of self tells the truth to others, not in a way that's brutal or unnecessarily harsh, but in a way that's authentic and real. They don't pretend to be further along than they are. They don't wear masks to gain approval. They don't say yes when they mean no or agree when they disagree. This authenticity is liberating because it means you can stop using so much energy maintaining false appearances and instead invest that energy in actual growth. It's also magnetic because people are starved for authenticity in a world full of performance and pretense. Throughout this journey of self-mastery, Larson emphasizes the importance of patience and self-compassion. You're not going to perfect yourself overnight. You're not going to eliminate every flaw, overcome every weakness, or reach some final state of completion where the work is done. Self-mastery is a lifelong journey, not a destination you arrive at and then stop. There will be days when you fail to live up to your ideals, when you fall back into old patterns, when you disappoint yourself. This is part of being human. The question isn't whether you'll stumble, it's whether you'll get back up, whether you'll treat yourself with compassion rather than contempt, whether you'll learn from the stumble rather than using it as evidence that you should quit. The master of self is kind to themselves, recognizing that they're a work in progress, that mistakes are part of the learning process, that setbacks don't negate progress. They speak to themselves the way they would speak to a beloved friend who's struggling, with encouragement rather than criticism, with support rather than shame, with understanding rather than harsh judgment. This self-compassion isn't self-indulgence or making excuses. It's the recognition that beating yourself up doesn't make you stronger, it makes you weaker, and that you can commit to improvement while still accepting yourself as you are right now. As we approach the conclusion of this comprehensive exploration of Larson's masterwork, let's reflect on what self-mastery truly means and why it matters. Self-mastery is the difference between living as a conscious creator and existing as an unconscious creature of habit and circumstance. It's the difference between directing your life and being directed by forces you don't understand or control. It's the difference between being at peace with yourself and being in constant inner conflict. It's the difference between fulfilling your potential and watching it remain forever dormant. The journey of self-mastery requires courage, the courage to look honestly at yourself, to challenge beliefs you've held your entire life, to change patterns that feel like part of your identity, to step into the unknown territory of who you might become. It requires commitment, the willingness to show up day after day, to practice even when you don't feel like it, persist even when progress seems slow. It requires humility, the recognition that you don't have all the answers, that you still have much to learn, that growth is infinite and there's always another level to reach. And it requires faith, not necessarily religious faith, but faith in yourself, faith in the process, faith in the possibility that you can become more than you currently are. The beauty of Larson's teachings is that they're not just philosophical abstractions or inspiring ideas to contemplate. They're practical principles that can be applied immediately to transform your daily experience. You don't need special circumstances or perfect conditions to begin mastering yourself. You can start right now, wherever you are, with whatever resources you have. You can choose a more empowering thought in this moment. You can make a more aligned decision right now. You can take one small action immediately that moves you toward the person you wish to become. Every moment presents an opportunity for self-mastery. When you're tempted to react in anger, you have an opportunity to choose response over reaction. When you're pulled toward distraction, you have an opportunity to exercise focus. When you're invited into gossip or negativity, you have an opportunity to elevate the conversation. When you're faced with a task you'd rather avoid, you have an opportunity to practice discipline. These small moments, these seemingly insignificant choices, are where self-mastery is actually built. It's not in the dramatic moments or the major decisions, though those matter too. It's in the 1,000 tiny choices you make each day that either strengthen your mastery or erode it. Larson would have you understand that self-mastery isn't about perfection, it's about direction. Are you moving toward greater awareness or deeper unconsciousness? Are you expanding or contracting? Are you evolving or stagnating? The specific speed of your progress matters less than the consistency of your direction. A person who's moving forward slowly but steadily will eventually surpass someone who makes dramatic progress in fits and starts but keeps returning to old patterns. Sustainable transformation happens through patient, persistent effort, through daily commitment to your practices, through unwavering loyalty to your vision even when circumstances would tempt you to abandon it. One of the most liberating aspects of self-mastery is that it makes you less dependent on external circumstances for your well-being. When you've developed mastery over your thoughts, emotions, and responses, when you've cultivated inner peace and strength, when you've connected with something unshakable within yourself, you become far more resilient in the face of life's inevitable ups and downs. You can experience disappointment without being crushed by it. You can face uncertainty without being paralyzed by it. You can encounter opposition without being defeated by it. Your inner state becomes less reactive to external conditions, which means you have more freedom, more peace, and more consistent access to your power. This doesn't mean you won't feel pain, sadness, frustration, or fear. The master of self still experiences the full range of human emotions. But they experience them from a place of centeredness rather than being overwhelmed by them. They can feel fear while moving forward anyway. They can experience sadness while maintaining hope. They can face challenges while trusting in their ability to handle whatever comes. This emotional resilience is one of the greatest gifts of self-mastery, because it means that life's difficulties don't derail you, they refine you. Larson also illuminates the connection between self-mastery and authenticity. When you master yourself, you're not molding yourself into some idealized image that has nothing to do with who you really are. You're removing the layers of conditioning, fear, and false beliefs that obscure your true nature. You're discovering and developing the unique individual you were meant to be, not trying to become someone else. Self-mastery is about being more yourself, not less. It's about expressing your authentic nature more fully, not suppressing it in favor of some generic template of what a successful or spiritual person is supposed to be. This authentic expression requires knowing yourself deeply, understanding your values, recognizing your gifts, acknowledging your limitations, and accepting the totality of who you are. It means being honest about what brings you joy and what drains you, what aligns with your values and what violates them, what feels true to your nature and what feels like performance. When you know yourself this deeply, you can make choices that honor your authentic self rather than betraying it in pursuit of approval, success, or some other external validation. The master of self also understands the principle of balance, recognizing that extremes in any direction ultimately become unsustainable. You need both effort and rest, both discipline and spontaneity, both structure and flexibility, both solitude and connection, both giving and receiving. Many people swing between extremes, being rigid and controlled for a while, then collapsing into chaos, then swinging back to rigidity. The master of self finds the middle way, the sustainable path that honors all aspects of their humanity. That includes discipline without becoming rigid. That includes pleasure without becoming indulgent. That includes ambition without becoming consumed by it. This balance extends to your relationship with self-mastery itself. It's possible to become so focused on self-improvement that you forget to actually live. To become so concerned with mastering yourself that you miss the beauty and joy available right now. To become so future-oriented that you sacrifice present happiness for some imagined future state of perfection. The master of self improves themselves while also appreciating themselves, works on their limitations while also celebrating their strengths, pursues growth while also embracing the present moment exactly as it is. As you integrate these principles into your life, you'll likely notice shifts in your relationships, your work, your health, and your overall sense of well-being. People who master themselves naturally attract different opportunities and relationships than those who remain unconscious and reactive. Your energy changes, your presence changes, and this draws experiences that match your elevated state. This isn't magic or manipulation. It's simply the natural consequence of becoming a different person. You perceive differently, choose differently, and act differently, which inevitably produces different results. But remember, the ultimate reward of self-mastery isn't the external results, though those often come. It's the internal transformation, the peace that comes from being aligned with yourself, the freedom that comes from no longer being controlled by unconscious patterns, the power that comes from knowing you can handle whatever life brings, the fulfillment that comes from expressing your authentic self and contributing your unique gifts. These internal rewards are far more valuable and lasting than any external achievement, though self-mastery often leads to external achievement as well. Larson's vision of self-mastery is ultimately a vision of liberation. Liberation from fear, from limitation, from the tyranny of unconscious conditioning, from the prison of habitual patterns that don't serve you. It's an invitation to claim your birthright as a conscious creator, to step into your full power, to become the author of your own story rather than a character in someone else's narrative. This liberation isn't found by escaping life or transcending the human condition. It's found by engaging more fully with life, by embracing your humanity while also connecting with something greater than your individual self. The path of self-mastery is not easy, but it is profoundly worthwhile. It will ask everything of you: your comfort, your certainty, your familiar identity, your cherished beliefs. It will challenge you in ways you can't yet imagine. It will reveal aspects of yourself you'd rather not see. It will require you to change in fundamental ways. But it will also liberate you in ways you never thought possible. It will reveal capacities you didn't know you had. It will open doors you didn't know existed. It will transform not just your life, but your very experience of being alive. So the question before you now is simple but profound. Will you answer this call to mastery? Will you commit to the journey of becoming who you're capable of being? Will you invest the time, energy, and effort required to transform yourself from the inside out? Will you be patient enough to persist through the inevitable challenges and setbacks? Will you be courageous enough to face yourself honestly and change what needs to be changed? Will you be faithful enough to trust the process even when you can't see the results? The choice is entirely yours, and no one can make it for you. But if you do choose this path, if you commit to mastering yourself with the same dedication that a master craftsman brings to their art, you will discover reserves of strength you didn't know you possessed. You will tap into sources of wisdom that transcend your individual knowledge. You will become someone you're proud to be, someone who makes a genuine difference, someone who lives with purpose, passion, and power. Every single day is a new opportunity to practice self-mastery, to make choices aligned with your highest vision, to strengthen your mental and emotional muscles, to move one step closer to the person you're meant to become. Some days you'll feel strong and clear and unstoppable. Other days you'll feel weak and confused and tempted to give up. Both types of days are part of the journey. Both offer opportunities for growth. Both contribute to your ultimate transformation. The key is showing up consistently, recommitting daily to your vision, being gentle with yourself when you fall short, and celebrating your progress even when it feels small. Remember that tiny improvements compound over time into massive transformations. The person who improves just 1% each day will be 37 times better at the end of a year. You don't need massive overnight changes. You need steady, consistent growth over time. Surround yourself with reminders of who you're becoming, with inspiration that keeps your vision alive, with people who support your growth rather than enable your stagnation. Read books like this one that elevate your thinking and challenge you to be more. Listen to teachers and mentors who've walked the path before you. Join communities of people who are also committed to growth and mastery. Create an environment that supports the person you're becoming rather than reinforcing the person you used to be. And remember always that self-mastery is not selfish. When you master yourself, you become more capable of serving others, more present in your relationships, more effective in your work, more generous with your gifts, more stable in crisis, more inspiring in your example. The world needs people who've done the inner work, who've faced their shadows, who've healed their wounds, who've developed their capacities. The world needs masters of self who can lead with wisdom, create with vision, and love with an open heart. As you embark on or continue this journey of self-mastery, know that you're not alone. Countless others have walked this path before you, and countless others are walking it alongside you right now. You're part of a timeless tradition of human beings committed to growth, evolution, and the realization of their highest potential. Draw strength from this lineage, from this community, from this shared commitment to becoming more than we currently are. The Mastery of Self is not just a book, it's a manual for living at your highest level, a blueprint for unlocking your deepest potential, a roadmap to a life of purpose, power, and peace. Christian Larson's wisdom has stood the test of time because it speaks to something universal in the human spirit: the desire to grow, to improve, to become something more, to fulfill the promise of who we're capable of being. Take these teachings into your life, not as abstract philosophy, but as practical principles to be lived daily. Test them in the laboratory of your own experience. Apply them consistently and observe the results. Adjust your approach based on what you discover. Make them your own through practice and integration. And then, once you've experienced their transformative power, share them with others who are ready to hear this message. Your journey of self-mastery begins now, in this very moment, with whatever choice you make next. Will it be a choice that moves you toward your highest self or away from it? Will it strengthen your mastery or weaken it? Will it honor your vision or betray it? The power is yours, it has always been yours, and it will always be yours. The only question is whether you'll claim it and use it consciously, or whether you'll let it remain dormant while your life unfolds on autopilot. If you found value in this exploration of the mastery of self, if these teachings resonated with something deep within you, if you feel inspired to begin or deepen your own journey of self-mastery, Please consider liking this video and subscribing to Audiobook Library. Your support helps this channel grow and allows us to bring more transformative content like this to people who are ready to hear it. Together, we're creating a community of conscious individuals committed to growth, mastery, and making a positive difference in the world. The path is laid before you, the principles have been shared, the invitation has been extended. Now it's up to you to take the first step, and then the next, and then the next, walking steadily toward the magnificent destiny that awaits you. Master yourself, and you master your life. Master your life, and you contribute to the elevation of all humanity. This is your calling, your purpose, your opportunity. Seize it with both hands and never let it go.